the current president of the Corpus Business Association, and thank you all for coming. If you would please bow your heads for the prayer. As we come together today with a common mission and agenda in support of business development in East Fort Worth, I pray you teach us to use our freedom to help to preserve and strengthen the freedom of all by respecting and upholding our laws, by engaging our elected officials, by informing ourselves on current issues, by voting regularly and wisely, and by honoring the rights of other people. I pray that you bless these proceedings and us to your service. Amen. You would please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. At this point, introduce some of our guests and make any announcements that we might have.
Right. I actually don't have any announcements. Does anyone else have any announcements?
The jazz band, April.
Jazz band?
I do.
Okay.
April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and Michael is the president of the Parenting Center, and I'm the development chair, and we would love for you all to be aware of Fort Worth being the second largest incident of child abuse in the state, and just be aware of that and get involved with different organizations, the Parenting Center is the premier one on that. We'd love to your participation. Thank you.
Thank you for that announcement and for the work you guys do.
Brian, you mentioned the jazz band. Did you want to know about the dance that got coming up?
Sure.
The
Yes, I would, Gary.
East Fort Worth Community Jazz Band, who rehearses in this room every Monday night. Well, come down and listen to it if you'd like to. They will be having a dance, the big band dance. And I don't have any details for you except to tell you that there's posters on both sides of the room. And I look at those and see if you can be after there. Wonderful, great entertainment, and it should be a fun evening. Like I say, all the details are there. I believe it's the last Saturday of this month. So, there you go.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Any other announcements before our guests? Okay, there are a lot of guests, so bear with me. This is good. Let's start with, I think, the last guest came from Jordan Bausek, City of Fort Worth. Did I say that right? Oh, it's Belusic. That's an L on a U, not a W. Apologies. City of Fort Worth Code Compliance. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. With America Can Cars for Kids, Amanda Hollins is here. Kirk Smith, Peregrine, Production. Kirk. We also have Mike Verrocchio. I said, did I butcher that even though you told me? Verrocchio.
And I just want to take a second to let everybody know that along with her, we're applying for a zoning case with the city of Fort Worth in the Fort Worth area. And there's some packets of information I believe on the table like that.
Yeah, they're up on the podium if anybody has any questions about that.
So the properties along Bridgewood on the lady this review. So appreciate it. Take a look at it.
Great. Thank you, Mike Verrocchio with EXP Realty. And the documentation is right here. All right, Daisy Bello with Clayton Youth Services. Thank you for being here, Daisy. And the Bullware with Impact Inc. We also have Debbie Cooley with Impact Inc. Kenneth Mendez, City Code, this I'm assuming City of Fort Worth. You're at the most compliant table in the room. And there's also Ann Mahoney. Are you also compliant? Also Michael Crane, City of Fort Worth. Michael. Raquel McFadden, Fort Worth ISD, Eastern Hills. Raquel. Raquel, it seems you should be a member by now. Okay.
I'm going to walk away, actually.
Good join. Riley Dow, Landcart Commercial. Riley, thank you for being here. And Francisca Fisher, thank you for being here. Guests that I didn't acknowledge or who didn't fill out a form. All right, President Mike, thank you. Oh, it's a trap. It's a trap.
Push that back in a little bit. Don't pull it out.
Yeah, we gotta,
No, the plug.
we gotta fix that. All right, I guess, up next is David Salgado, and I believe David's going to introduce our guest speaker. Slight change to our agenda, but David will explain that to you here.
Everyone, you guys enjoy your lunch. Years back, I own a grocery store, and we decided to go to government contracting. The SBA was very instrumental in helping us procure ground beef and chicken to the school districts across the United States. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to hear from the SBA, and I invited our initial speaker was Nancy Alvarez, but she actually had to get on a call from Washington DC. So so very fitting. We confirmed a few times this week, but thankfully she sent somebody from her office, and they're going to speak to us on what the SBA does and how they can help benefit East Fort Worth. So I'm going to welcome to you guys, Chuck.
Thank you very much. I was going to come up and say, good afternoon, my name is Nancy Alvarez. I don't think I could have sold that. Can you hear me okay? Everybody?
Yeah.
Good deal. I work with the Small Business Administration. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. I've got 12 years with the SBA. 10 years before that, I worked for a program called a Procurement Technical Assistance Center, funded by the Defense Logistics Agency to help small businesses sell to the government. So that's 22 years. For the 25 years before that, I worked for a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, also known as DAG. Grew up in the family business, so I've got still more years on your side of the desk than I have on the government side of the desk. So I look around and make sure that none of my bosses are here, because sometimes I'm a little irreverent about dealing with the government. It just happens. It's an interesting customer. If you haven't sold to them before, got a lot of rules, a lot of paperwork. You expected that. But we work with them. I've been privileged to work with a number of small businesses who have benefited greatly from having the U.S. government as one of their customers. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. But if you sell goods or services that are on the list of the goods and services that the government buys, you might want to give it a look. The check's always clear. Print more money. Hope I don't get in trouble. Here we go. All right. So the mission of the SBA is to help small businesses to maintain and strengthen the national economy, establish viable small businesses that can help the economy and employ people. It's a good thing. What does every large business have in common? Well, we talk about resources, capital, connections. They know people, boards of directors and advisory, and And what we want to do is kind of try to put some of this stuff on your menu as well. But another thing that all big businesses have in common is darn near every one of them started off small. So out here, you guys may be building a company or well on your way to becoming a large business or passing it down to second generation. I had the business that my dad had lasted for 43 years, 4 months and a day. That was pretty neat. Thought I would go into it, didn't look like it had the future it needed, so I branched off and went into other things. My brother stayed there till about 3 years after Dad died, and then he went off onto something else. But that was pretty cool to be a 2-generation family business, and that's a neat thing. And to be able to hire people and put them to work and see them grow up and get married and have kids, that I still get goosebumps when I say that. So I get to bring a perspective to assisting government and assisting small businesses in coming together if it's a good match from the perspective of both sides, knowing how the government works and knowing how small business works. So I feel pretty privileged to be able to do that. So business development is what we call what we do. I spend 99% of my time right now working with people who are trying to sell to the government, but that's not the only thing SBA does. We work with people who need to borrow money. How many of you have gotten a disaster loan from the SBA for your business in the last 2 years? Okay. We've done more lending in the past 2 years than we did before the past 2 years, all the way back to 1953. I mean, it's been crazy. It really has. I've had to get into the lending side of the house, taking phone calls, trying to get stuff going. Has it been a mess? Absolutely. DC said, we're saying, should they apply? You know, it's something we should do. The pallets, you know, how does this work? So it's been crazy. It was the analogy, my dad had a gun store, and we ended up with 2 gun stores and 3 clothing stores and dabbled in a lot of other stuff. So a lot of my analogies are not politically correct anymore, but the ready, fire, aim comes to mind on some of this stuff. But business development is what we're interested in, what we're trying to provide. And we do that, one of the ways we do that is as an agency, we fund resource partners. There's offices and good people out there who are looking to help small businesses. A lot of them. And they're really good organizations. Anyone familiar with SCORE? Used to be called Service Corps Retired Executives, but they got cranky because that made them sound old. So now they go with Mentors to America's Small Business. And that's great. They're volunteers who will sit down and talk to you as long as you want to talk. And there's a network of them across the nation. You can log in and get the credentials and reach to somebody across anywhere in the country who may be doing exactly what you are trying to do. And they'll just get on the phone and talk to you. You can ask them questions, they'll mentor you, no charge. Couple of them I'll hit. We've got women's business centers across the nation. There is one in DFW. This Cross Timbers here, underneath that it says Procurement Technical Assistance Center. That's not actually funded by our agency, it's funded by the Defense Department, but they'll help you sell to state and local governments. Now you start thinking about who runs on tax dollars. That's school districts, counties, the state, all the state agencies, water authority. There's just a ton of organizations that run on taxes, and they'll help you find out how they go about buying things. And if you're eligible for any of the certifications that they're looking for, they can help you with that as well. That's what that NCTRCA does. They're a certification agency. The biggest one is the Small Business Development Centers right here. SBDCs, there's, I think, 1,200 offices across the nation. They're usually at colleges or universities, and they can help you with startup. Putting a plan together. If you need a loan, they can help you put a business loan package together that's acceptable to take to a bank, help you with the projections. I mean, I get it. Entrepreneurs have a lot of hats to wear, and there's a lot of things we have to do. You may have some things that you do extremely well, and some things you're not going to do. And for me, accounting was always something that I'm going to hire an accountant. I had to force myself to get the hang of it, be able to read the statements, understand what that stuff meant. But if you're not strong in accounting and the projection thing doesn't work, SBDCs can help you with that. Putting together a human resource manual. how to train and protect yourself from your employees and lawsuits, all kinds of great resources in these organizations. And that's what a lot of the money that SBA gets from you, the taxpayer, uses to support those programs. So those hosts, those colleges and universities put money up, and the SBA puts money up, and you go into what's called a cost-sharing cooperative agreement, which translates to a contract where you guys help people and they'll give you some money to help you help people. Sit down, counsel them, give them the advice they need. All right, I told you, and I'm gonna go fast because I know we've only got, what, 3 hours? Is that right? Selling to the government. The US government is the largest consumer of goods and services on the planet. There's not much the government doesn't buy. I did have to turn a couple people away before. Tattoos. Although there are people who get paychecks from the government who purchase tattoos, the government doesn't directly pay for those. That, I think, was the only one. But they buy a lot of stuff. They really do. The budget's amazing. And they set aside a certain portion of it to go to small business. 23%. So the numbers are huge. I don't even know how to say them. But the idea, the way we do that is to try to level the playing field. This is Nancy's slide. I thought that was cute. Looking at a set-aside program, which means the contracts, the government contracting people will look at everything they need to buy, and they'll say, you know what, we know there's some people who've been marketing to us that are small businesses that sell that good or that service, or the food that needs to go to the school for Department of Ed, or to the MREs that the government's going to have the military folks eat in the field, or firearms, or whatever it is they need. They're going to set those contracts aside because they know there's small businesses out there who can provide those things. And that's kind of how that works. And to get those things, you've got certifications that are available for small businesses. So if you're eligible, you can apply for and get these certifications. Does that guarantee you a contract? No. But it gives you a tool in your toolbox as you sell your goods and services when you approach the government to say, look, you buy widgets, I sell widgets. Oh, by the way, I've got one of these certifications. It's a tool. Small disadvantaged business is also where the 8A program lies, as you were talking about, David. That's our most powerful program. That's where I work. You can actually, if it's all done right, it's all done legal. It is. It's completely legal. You can sit down and negotiate directly with an agency. The contract opportunity never goes what we call on the street. It's negotiated between a small business owner who's an 8A certified company and the government. And if they come to terms, they can award it directly to them with no competition. Or you think, God, just pick any price. Tell you what, those government contracting people are pretty shrewd. You remember the old stories about the like $800 hammer and the $2,000 toilet seat stuff? Good luck. Good luck with that. I bought lunch. They said, no, we'll get you. I don't want free, nothing free. I mean, if you think they're watching, they are. They're very shrewd. They're very careful. The rules and regs are there. Just play by the rules. Everything is fine. Service disabled veteran-owned small business. Any veterans in the room? Thank you very much. Any Navy veterans in the room? Hey, my son's in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy. My brother is retired Navy. I was supposed to go into the Navy, but that was right when Dad retired. So what I tell people is I did my retirement gig first. Now I'm working for them. But service disabled vet, the government's looking for companies that can provide the goods and services it needs that are owned by vets who have a DD14 with a disability rating. Those of you who are, you know what that means. HUBZone is about where you are, and that's something that every one of you should take a look at here in this area. Because it's a demographic area that has low per capita income compared to the state, high unemployment compared to the state. If you're in the right census tract, you may be eligible. So these are tools that the government has set up to try to encourage small business to sell to them, because the government needs small business. It's where the great ideas come from. It's where the innovation comes from. It's where the fast movement comes from. Some of these big companies are like big ships. It takes them 5-10 miles to turn around, and you know they do this. That's all they do. It's where small businesses can deliver. We have a mentor protege program at the SBA where we can help you with an agreement between a company that's willing to help you. All it is just a teaming agreement. They want to learn something, we want to teach them something, we're willing to get together and work that out. And if you come to that agreement, then there's a thing called a joint venture we can help you with. If you're certified under one of those tags I mentioned before, help you develop that joint venture. Now you've got a new company that is both of you together, that's stronger, synergy, that can sell to the government. It's pretty neat stuff. I'm going too fast with this, but I have to cover everything. Loans. Anybody need a loan? No, good. Relax. If you need some cash, SBA, we don't loan money to businesses. We work with banks so that the bank can feel more comfortable lending money to a small business. Any bankers in there? Thank you very much for what you do. You guys involved in SBA at all? Did they have it at your bank? Good, that's great. That's all we asked. They have the product there. So you go to your bank, you need money for whatever it is you're doing, and they take a look at you, and if you've got the best credit in the world, everything's wonderful, you don't need the SBA. If you got the worst credit in the world, the SBA can't help you. It's just the truth. But someplace between the worst and the best comes a little wedge, right? Where people who are close, but kind of can't really get over that hump and say to the banker, you got SBA? Because SBA, in the simplest terms, we insure the loan. So we'll tell the bank, look, if you'll do our paperwork and all the stuff we ask you to do, and you give them the loan and they default on it, we'll pay you a portion of the outstanding balance, depending on what the deal is at the time. And then we'll go back to the small business and try to collect your part of it. But that way they get out from under it, mitigates the risk, makes them more comfortable to do it. So that's what SBA does with lending. A lot of banks in the area that have those services, we've got resource guides up here that list all the banks. Different kinds of loans, 7A loan, right now it's up to $5 million. The things that are good is the interest rates aren't that bad, but the term's a little longer than you might normally be able to get on a small business loan. So the payments are smaller. 5 million also on the 504. Those are different loans for different purposes, depending on if you're doing a line of credit, or you're doing buying inventory or refinancing debt versus buying hard assets, machinery, equipment, buildings, things like that. They'll pick the right one for you. So what do lenders look for? Well, you guys know you're in business. You got to have pretty good credit, but it doesn't have to be perfect, but pretty close. It's challenging in the conditions of the economy, how much money you have to contribute, owner injection. Nobody wants to absorb all the risk. They want to see that you're buying into it as well. What do you have for collateral? What's your capacity to pay back? Because that's ultimately what they're looking for is, let's get that money back with a little bit of interest. We have a tool on our website, SBA.gov. If you walk out of here today with one thing, just SBA.gov. That's where we are. Everything's in there. There's a contracting tab and a capital tab. And you just go through there and look at it. There's a machine that'll try to help you match you up, search engine that'll match you up with a lender. There's funds for people who are inventing, people who can come up with new technology. Just about every federal agency has money for this. And the best one presentation I ever saw was from NASA. They did an SBIR, STTR presentation one time and said, it's this simple. If you can come up with faster, stronger, or lighter, we got money for it. Faster, stronger, and lighter. Okay, so he elaborated on that. With faster, they do rockets. So faster, can you make a rocket go faster? Stronger, they've got all these high-tech exotic metals is what they're calling them. They're super light, super strong, and all this stuff. Can you come up with some new mix for metal? Stronger, faster, lighter. All that stuff needs to be light. That's all they need. Anybody? Every agency's got something like that they need. When I used to teach at a community college in Corpus, I used to tell my students every morning you have $1 million. Every one of you guaranteed. Every one of you. It's just whether you can take that idea and do anything, make it come to fruition, take it all through the steps. This is what they're looking for, is people who can do that. Something new, something clever, something innovative. And it also funds those clever ideas that small businesses bring to the forefront that make a big difference in Afghanistan, Iraq, all those places. You know, those vehicles that have the V hull, small business in Houston did that. That's for those road bombs you roll over and they blow up, or they detonate them as the U.S. trucks roll over. They put that V frame on there and reinforced it so it divert the energy from the explosion. And our fighting men and women have a much higher rate of survival because that came from a small business. It came from funding, things like this. International trade. Anybody selling around the world? A lot of money outside this country too. Risky? Sure. So having a little bit of a connection, some agency that can talk to you about it, give you some information and support on it is a good idea. Know the rules of the road. SBA has an international commerce division. Disaster loans. One person took advantage of the disaster loans that are associated with COVID-19. Hurricanes, tornado, I'm from Corpus, so I would say hurricanes first. I like hurricanes better than these tornadoes. I heard that whistle, that thing, I'm like, what the? And my wife said, let's go to the closet. Hurricanes you can see coming for days. These tornadoes we have up here, I'm not so sure. But if a tornado hits, if a flood hits, anything that affects your business adversely and you individually. Now, what we do is we span the gap between you and your insurance. If you're an insured homeowner or business owner, but remember there is still a personal individual thing on disaster. It's not just covering businesses. Okay, so if something bad happens to you, you might be eligible for a disaster loan. These are 4 programs that Congress put in place for COVID-19. They're all closed now. They're all wrapping up. The last one expired at the end of last year, and they're still processing through those who have submitted applications, and those who have received money also can do an increase in the loan amount if they want to. Some of it was, we don't like to use the word grant, but some of it was paid out without having to pay it back. Grant. Just keep it simple. Some of it's easy terms over 30 years, 2.25%, 3.5%, things like that. Some of them was specifically for restaurants trying to get those things back open. Some of it may never get paid back. They do.
Okay.
It'll go fast, but I will be here till everybody leaves. If you have any questions, if there's anything I can help you with, I've got business cards up here. It's a pretty neat little agency. I'm proud to work for it. You know, I'm not a bureaucrat by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a guy who sits down and talks with businesses and helps them sell to the government. And if they need loans to do that, I'm happy to help you do that and explain where you got to register and who you got to talk to. Before COVID, we were a little agency, less than 2,000 people. Just less than that in DC and in the field, every state, 68 district offices. There's more of us now because we hired contractors and stuff to kind of help out with these loans. Yes, sir.
You never did define what a small business is. In my understanding of a small business, maybe my thinking is skewed, but it's what I understand is less than 1,000 employees. And to me, that's a large business, especially when you look at some businesses that do billions of dollars in business with the government, and yet they're still classified as a small business. I've seen businesses that pay $16 million in fines for violating procurement rules, and yet they're still classified as a small business by the government and do billions of dollars. And it just seems that definition needs to be revamped.
You might be right.
1,000, because that's 1,000
Yeah.
employees, right?
The way
It's 1,000 employees. Is that?
a NAICS code is a North American Industrial Classification System code. Every business has a 6-digit code. Every 6-digit code has a size standard. If it is a service, it has a number that's revenue. If it is manufacturing, it has a number that is a number of employees. And there are probably 20 or 30 measures in each one of those categories. And then you've got those other industries, like if you're producing energy, you know, how many kilowatt, megawatts, whatever you generate. I don't know how I would do that. But there are size standards out there to determine small, and then what we call other than small. You get a book when you get there. It's how to do the acronyms and all the goofy terms. But your point's well made. There's questions on that. Are you really small? You hear about some small business getting a $50 million contract, and you're like, yeah, that's small. Okay, can we talk? Okay, $50 million contract, that's probably going to be over 4 or 5 years, okay? They're probably one of about 10 on a multiple award task order contract. That means they were awarded to multiple people who all can say they got that $50 million contract. Now we're spreading it over 10, spreading it over 5 years, and you may not get very many pieces if you don't do good on the first or second shot. So you start spreading those things out, that can give you a little different perspective. But what you said is absolutely right. Sometimes those things happen and you're like, I can't make this math work. And then somebody from like military procurement fraud unit or one of the other agencies goes in there and rattles a cage and they have to pay a fine. I'm not going to be able to explain that stuff away. I don't know. I had red hair when I started with the agency. Any other questions? Sir.
And what is the interest rates run on these kind of loans?
A few points above what the bank or the prime is, or some other calculation. Now I'm showing my ignorance now. I'm not in the lending side of the house. I'm on the contracting side of the house. But the interest rates are competitive, bearing in mind that there's someplace in between the strong and the weak. We also have a program called micro lending, which deals with companies that are even more toward the lesser side, can't get the SBA loans. The micro lenders are a little more creative on their collateral, but they do charge a little more on their interest rates. So,
On the purchasing side, what would you say are items that really are items that would be higher priority? You know that you really are having a hard time buying enough of them, finding enough suppliers of them. And the second question, what are a couple of items that you've done contracts for purchase of that might surprise us?
I'll start with the solemn stuff. 9/11, we were looking for manufacturers of body bags. Other things that would surprise you. I'll have to wait and see what comes up. What's a good thing to sell? And I'm turning your question around. People ask me if they can stay awake long enough for me to tell them what they do, what I do. Because a lot of people just kids are in their 30s and they don't know. My son's in the Navy and he still doesn't care. He's plane that has a hook on it. Helping people sell to the government, you know, people come, well, what is the government buy? What's a good thing to get into? I said, they love those jet fighters. And they're so expensive, just make one or two and sell them, you probably retire, you know. But the things that the government buys are as diverse as you can imagine. What's hot right now? I could answer that question when I was in San Antonio. San Antonio is a huge Defense Department market, and we just did a ton of construction. We did a ton of Fort Sam Houston is down there. They do all the medical training down there. We did a ton of medical staffing. Because the medical
So it's
training,
not just products.
oh no,
It's services and.
everything the government buys. It's not a situation where the government is setting aside, okay, anybody that does staffing for medical, that's small business. No, any individual contract that they want to set aside. We do not have the authority to compel an agency to set it aside. We ask them on your behalf if you can find it. Because we're trying to teach you about their claims. So your questions are good. I can't really go into that right now. What's selling right now? What have I done the last?
If I were going to go out and start a business, because I know I can sell the government something.
It's a great question. And my answer is, what do you like to do? What are you good at?
Yeah.
Because if you do a lot of time.
Gary, if you go to SBA.gov, you can see a list of all the big dollar solicitations the government is asking for. And it does range from construction, to cleaning services, to, there was a tornado up north recently, they need water, and you'll see a long list of things.
Anything you can think of?
Here's one I read recently. I sent it to a friend because I thought it was so funny. They were looking for a strategic chaos engine for planning, tactics, experimentation, and resiliency. It was called Scepter. and it was to develop analytic engines that will produce machine-generated strategies capable of competing with humans in the planning of real warfare. And that was a legit, that was an actual, that was a solicitation. I almost applied for it, but I.
Is that a solicitation
That was an
or
actual
a source of song?
It was a source of song.
Okay, there's different flavors of solicitation. This basically was saying, is there anybody out there who can do this?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing? Is that real? You know, they've got these different tools. Some of the stuff you read, you're like, what the heck is that? Other stuff makes sense, you know. Interesting deal that my son is in naval aviation. He just moved from Fallon, Nevada. Who knows what's in Fallon, Nevada for the Navy? Top Gun. Top Gun's in Fallon, where they went around that, Buzz the Tower, you know, and you got permitted. That's in Fallon. There. My son does not do that flying stuff. He sits in the back of the plane. So he's kind of like Goose, but different, one with a dish on it. But he just moved back to Virginia. He used to teach out there, but now he's in Virginia. We were down there the other day. Went down the street, turned left, and there was some government building there. I said, what is this, buddy? And he said, oh, it's NAVFAC, the Naval Facilities Command. I get back, there's a NAVFAC office on my desk. From that office. It's an amazingly small world. So they buy stuff they need. And then they buy some other stuff. It's like, what the heck is that? And then they buy stuff they can't talk about. Because it's all secret stuff. And
That's why you wouldn't answer my question.
No, it's because I work for the government and I had to dance around and with that stuff. But, you know, to ask that of one guy, I just have this painfully little picture of things. I'm just one DOS was like a couple hundred of us, and we're just dealing with the certified small business in the 8A program. It's just the stuff they buy is so vast. But you're right, it used to be called FedBizOps, now it's called SAM. It's migrated under a new cover, SAM.gov. They post what they can post, and they're putting it on the street. They're looking for people to sell to them. They need multiple goods and sources of goods and services. Where would we be if we've only bought from 5 or 6 different huge companies and they were all in the Twin Towers?
Do you need marble cutting boards? Because I've got stories.
You'd be surprised. Do they do cutting boards? I bet you yes. If nothing else, they sell them in the commissaries. Sell them in the commissary. So you could be a supplier to them. You want them to be your only customer? Don't heard of those government shutdowns? Those boring we can have in my life. And then I got back to work and they paid for the time I wasn't there. I was like, great, save the payroll. Too much like business. Yeah.
What is your position with SBA?
I'm a business opportunity specialist.
Okay.
I work with people in that 8A program.
We were 8A for 9 years.
Right.
Who would we run into, we have several GSA contracts, we have BPAs, we were SBA vendor of the year at one point. But honestly, I was very frustrated with the people we were talking to. They didn't seem to know, and they just kind of sent me to the next and check the box. And I'm not being.
What happens?
But I would love to find someone, we're facing a particular situation right now that I would need an SBA for something. And yeah, and okay.
Point you to somebody else.
Okay. We spent a lot of time down there on Corinth at the, what is it? The SBA center there.
Well, there's a disaster center down there. Our district office was on Amon Carter when I moved up here 3 years ago. Now we're on West Parkway at where 183 and 121 kind of split off.
It's like Lamar, Dallas.
Yeah. Got here right when COVID started. I still don't know.
Thank you for joining us, Sean, or give him a round.
Yeah, who's doing door right now? You're gonna do it with, or Don normally does.
Thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate that. We have a tradition here. Come on around. We have a tradition. Some of our members give out door prizes. And did it help me, Bill? Okay.
I get one of those marble cutting boards, and if the rules Sing that, my part, I said that.
The first door prize compliments of Malcolm Wentworth, Cars for Kids, the wonderful, our wonderful board member, a $50 gift card. So the $50 Visa gift card, I want to make sure everybody had a chance for that one. The last three numbers,
394.
394. All right.
School supplies.
One of our partners that has been with us for decades is the Mexican Inn here on Lancaster. A wonderful restaurant. And hopefully, as soon as they can get all their staffing back up to snuff, we'll have another spirit night, which we all enjoy. But I have two $25 gift cards for the Mexican Inn. So the first one, last three numbers.
374.
374. Second gift card.
401.
401. All right, Ken. Who was a restaurateur for a number of years? Our board member, Brian Gillen, from Texas Wesleyan, has brought 2 tickets to the April 23rd performance of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, the play at Texas Wesleyan. And they are always wonderful plays. I promise you, as an alumni, I'm not biased at all. The last three.
379.
That's me. All right. I'm going to do this in 2 sets. We have the East Fort Worth Business Association is a sponsor of the East Side Jazz Band's Big Band Dance. We help underwrite it. It's a wonderful organization and a great group. Most of these people that play in the East Fort Worth Jazz Band are music educators. Okay, so they are, it's really a fun time. And we have, as a result of our sponsorship, we have 4 tickets. I'm going to give these out in 2 sets. This is on April 23rd. Okay, right here in this room. Okay. The first set of tickets.
375.
All right. All right. It's like we need an excuse, right? The second set of tickets.
393.
393.
This is Michael Cranston. Well, very good.
Here. Don't give them to Michael.
Okay, well, no, no, big secret.
We won't tell.
Never happened.
Angela Baker, Southside Bank, our treasurer. Got a California Chardonnay. Wonderful wine. The last 3.
399. There you go.
All right, Don. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Oh, this is what Gary was talking about. Compliments of Bob Gallant, Gallant Marble and Granite.
Oh, what kind is that, Bob? 30 pounds? What kind is that, Don?
Colonial Greek cream, is that correct? Colonial cream cutting board. That's a mouthful. And
377.
Oh, that's me.
all right. Compliments of Wanda. These are what we call hero makers. We have 2 sets of flowers,
391.
391.
Right here.
All right.
Hero, there you go.
And the second set of flowers,
390.
390.
No, that's mine. We'll give it-
Wanda donated them, so.
All right, and
404.
All right. Thank you. Congratulations. Sean, thank you so much for helping us. Appreciate that.
So I'm gonna close out a little early, I guess. Thank you, Sean Smith, for being here. If you guys have any questions, Sean said he was not leaving until you guys are all done asking him questions. Freedom Corner. I want to take a minute to thank our officers, Mike Chavez, Travis Brewer. Next month, I think we're trying to line up some candidates for the district attorney's office. The two that are going to go into the runoff, I believe. So we're trying to line that up for you. If we can't get that locked down, we'll think of something. We'll send it out. We'll have an answer for you shortly. I did want to remind you, Debbie already mentioned it. It is Child Abuse Awareness Month. I do serve on the board of the parenting center, so it's kind of, and I've been doing that for several years. I started doing that, Debbie introduced me to the board a while back, but it's been near and dear to my heart. Those of you who know me, I served as a detective in the Crimes Against Children unit here for the city of Fort Worth for a little over 3 years, and became more than aware of the abuse that's behind closed doors. So anything we can do to bring awareness to that issue is important, but having action is even more important. So I would encourage you. There's a lot of different organizations around the city, in the county, that get involved with child abuse. So take the month, maybe look around, see if there's something you want to get involved with. We have a shoot, actually a clay shoot later this month on April 23rd. That's with the Parenting Center that will provide counseling, provide classes to children, to families that are going through trauma. If you want more information about the clay shoot, if you're a shooter, want to go to Defender out your doors and shoot. 22nd? Oh, it's April 22nd. My apologies. I can't read. I don't have my glasses. April 22nd. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to hit me up. I'll give you the information. We also have information here about the zoning case. The zoning case hasn't been put forward yet, but it is a zoning request change for an area here in East Fort Worth. It's on Delaney, JW Delaney Road, I think is what it's called, but it's basically at Loop 820 and Delaney right there. It's right just east of the Woodhaven community. So if you need information about that, there is some packets up here. So I don't have anything else. Any other announcements we need to make? We're good to go.
Main Street Arts Festival.
Oh, we have 2 Main Street Arts Festivals.
There's only one.
Well, there are 2. There is the Main Street Arts Festival that started today, so it hasn't been there for 2 years. I'd encourage you to go down and check them out. So, thank you all. Thanks for coming, everybody.